Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Bad and Five. I've wanted to kind of make a video for a little while now about some of the right wing stuff that's been happening in this country and just kind of do one of my rants like I used to do. So I figured I'd have a couple beers and just shoot from the hip like I always used to do. Now, first and foremost, I just want to kind of talk about something. Uh, I have no delusions about what my channel is and always was, and that's just a small channel with the same few people watching. And yeah, so I just basically did my thing for a while, never really took off, nor did I ever expect to. But since some of you guys have been around for a while, you're going to remember a little series I did called The Illuminati is Bullshit. Now, that's kind of what I want to bring up here. So I'm not big into conspiracy theories. You can have ideas, that's fine. Or if you look into something like, that kind of doesn't make sense to me. Is there something more going on here? Is there something nefarious? Especially when it comes to authority. Like, there is nothing wrong with that. Like, I have a real distrust and bordering on hatred toward like law enforcement in this country and globally. Not all countries, but a lot of countries, law enforcement, they're shit. United States, they're pretty bad. They know when they're violating your rights. They just don't give a fuck. So that said, I don't like conspiracy theories. If you have proof for something, cool. If you don't, like, Joe Biden's dead. He's being played by James Woods. Things like that. This is idiotic. But one thing is, no one is talking about this, it seems, outside of a few people that I watch. Project 2025. Now, I'm obviously being hyperbolic. You'll hear mentions of it, but why is this not something that is everywhere? People are talking about this. And for those of you who don't know, it's essentially fascism from the right in this country. And just look it up. Now, the ironic thing here is that the manifesto that pretty much all the right-wing groups in this country have released, these are the same people who are bitching and crying about the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare being a super, super long bill. Like, oh, this should be able to, be a page, or we should have cliff notes. The Project 2025 thing is like 1,000 pages. So there's a lot to it. But that said, there's some really fucked up shit in this. I remember back in 2008, when Obama was first elected, Yoke and his wife were, talking about, well, look, some really nasty stuff is going to start happening. Well, all these, nasty things that supposedly Obama was going to do and, the Democrats were going to bring, this is all the stuff there. Basically, they're saying, they want a red Caesar. They want a strong man at the top. And maybe this is just par for the course, because I recently saw a study or a poll that said there's a significant chunk of Republicans who want a president who's willing to break the rules or bend the laws. Really? Aren't you supposed to be the side that loves the Constitution and is all about law and order and all this? Which, they show that they don't fucking care. They really don't. January 6th, the first time in our country's history there was not a peaceful transition of power. And you can make any argument you want and say, well, there were some discrepancies. No, there weren't. Sorry, Biden won. Trump didn't win the popular vote in 2016. And he didn't really do any favors by doing his own. He's always going to have that small group of 40% of Republicans who love him. And then he kind of, pissed off a lot of other groups. There's that one flag, LGBTQ for Trump, and I will be a best friend to the LGBTQ community, or whatever the fuck he said, even though he doesn't seem to realize that the T in that doesn't stand for Trump. It actually stands for transgender, and he was kind of hurting them. And don't let people get, gender reassignment surgeries in the military, because that's too much money, even though we spend more on Viagra for our military than transgender surgeries, but whatever. So he pissed off a lot of people. So how would he win a second time? And people saw the fascistic type notions that he was, fascistic type tendencies he had, where like, don't question him. He's not doing a bad job. That's just you. You're an idiot. Don't believe what you're saying, what you're hearing. No. Just listen to me. Another ironic thing is I see people they were like, 1984 wasn't a playbook. Oh, are you planning to vote for Trump again a third time? You are. Did you ever read 1984? Or are you just saying it because other people have said it, you thought it sounded good because someone gave you kind of the synopsis of the book? But why are we not talking about this? Why are we not freaking out, like saying, this is bad? These guys are basically saying, yes, we want fascism in America. We don't really respect the laws we're talking about. In fact, here's a good example, and it's just kind of a mild one, but it still pisses me off. Here in Ohio, back in August, even though they weren't supposed to do this by their own rules, they wanted to change the rules here in the state as to how we can change our constitution, our state constitution. Before, it was just always majority, 50% plus one, that passes. Well, they wanted to change that to 60%. Now, they were trying to make these arguments about how, it's all about, we don't want outside groups coming in here and saying this and this and this. Well, turns out that Republicans, surprise, surprise, to their donors, they were saying this is absolutely about abortion, because we were one of the states that had those trigger laws that if Roe v. Wade is overturned, boom, abortion's basically outlawed. And in fact, it's funny because we had that, I believe she was like a 10-year-old girl, raped, got pregnant, couldn't get an abortion. She had to go to Indiana to get an abortion. Jim Jordan, when they brought it, I'd never heard of this. But then people posted like, well, here, motherfucker, here's the proof. He said nothing. So, we had that, and that was great. So we had that special election, and it failed. Good. And the thing that the people that supported that, they knew it was about abortion. That's where no, we have to make sure, outside groups to make sure. What do you mean outside groups? What the fuck is that supposed to mean? You can listen to outside groups. I can listen to liberals in other states for points. Like it was just about abortion. So anyway, last November, we had not only an abortion bill, but a bill to legalize marijuana. Now, we had a bill that was somewhat similar a few years ago, and that failed, which I still don't know why. But this time, abortion is in the Constitution, and marijuana should be legalized. Cool, right? Yeah, okay. And people are like, oh, good job, Ohio, and all this. Yeah, and I agree. But, of course, the Republicans here are, number one, they're trying to say that, well, the abortion thing that passed, well, that doesn't negate the law that was already on the books. Actually, asshole, it does. It's now in the Constitution of the state that you can get an abortion for any reason. In fact, it kind of pissed me off because our governor, Mike DeWine, when people complain about, career politicians, he's like the definition of this. But there are all these commercials talk about how it just goes too far. Issue 1 goes too far, as opposed to the bill that was already in effect, which basically said you couldn't get any abortion. So they're trying to say that it didn't negate that, even though it did. And not just that, but the marijuana thing. They're trying to change it so, well, let's cut back on the THC. Let's not give money to, schools. Let's give it to law enforcement, because they don't get enough money already. Why is it that Republicans, and some liberals do this, but, it's not like this, where they can't accept that they lost. They just cannot accept it. So they want to change the rules. Or they want to say, well, voters didn't exactly know what they were voting for. Is that really what it is? Or is it that you can't accept that your ideas are not winning? And that's honestly what it is. They can't accept that. So they want to try to fuck with the rules and say, well, we know the people said that, but, because, we're not a democracy. We're a republic, even though we let you guys vote on it and you guys spoke. And a majority of you guys, I think it was 57% for both issue 1 and 2, the abortion and marijuana bills, passed, and that was a clear majority, which, by the way, again, that's why they had the special election, because they knew that neither of these could get 60% of the vote. So, yeah, they want to fuck with these rules and say that, like, this is driving me fucking insane. But then again, it's the same with the people who say that we need to change the voting age from 18 to like 25. Because, well, if we let 18-year-olds vote, something. Because I know the Zoomers aren't exactly big on Republican policies. Like, they're kind of moving past even what us millennials believe. Like, they're kind of more left-wing than my generation. And they know that they can't win. So they want to kind of remove that voting block. They try to have this bullshit. Like, well, you don't really know enough. Oh, okay. Yeah. But so what? I'm sorry, but boomers don't really know enough either. When they rely on Fox News for the most part, they don't really show me like that they're that smart when it comes to politics either. So you're going to remove them? How about people with dementia? Are you going to say they can't vote anymore? No, of course not, because they're going to vote for Republicans. But I am completely fucking flabbergasted by this. The Project 2025 thing, it's basically Nazism. I'll see people accuse leftists of being Nazis, or like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like, oh, she's a Nazi. Is she? I don't know where the fuck you're getting that from. And just bullshit reasons. Like, well, the Nazis were socialists. Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they totally were. But then they look at this and they say nothing. Because this isn't like something that's hidden. This is something that's kind of just out there. And a few channels have talked about that I watch, and it's scary. It is really scary stuff. Go do some research on it if you don't already know. But this really freaks me out. And what pisses me off more is that it's not like if this happens, there's just somewhere where all of, the United States liberals could go. It's not like, I have a Canadian flag back here because, Canada is kind of cooler than the United States. But even there, it's like their right-wingers are trying to out-right-wing our right-wingers. I see comments on Facebook from these guys, and I'm like, why don't we just switch places? Like, you can take this fucking country and be happy. I mean, with how close they're getting to fascism with certain things. Hell, I'll go up there. I can take the cold. But yeah, like, how is this okay? How is this not something that people are pointing out all the time? And I know that they have always been willing to overlook things. Like stupid little things like, I really think that George W. Bush is someone that I could have a beer with. You point out, well, he's a recovering alcoholic. I don't think he's going to drink. Yeah, well, semantics or whatever the hell argument they want to make there. Donald Trump is a Christian president, okay? He couldn't name one verse from the Bible that he liked. Not even like John 3:16, an easy one. He hasn't gone to a church consistently. He actually didn't he say like he's never like asked for forgiveness, anything like that. He literally said, I am the chosen one. So he's basically saying he's a prophet, even though, well, he's not really done anything to prove he's a prophet. He's just making that claim. Okay, great. So they're willing to overlook certain things for their philosophy, for their ideology. But this is just going way too far, and I don't understand how they're not scared either. Maybe it's because they think, well, it's going to be one of our people winning. Because I know that, the Young Turks, and I don't fucking like them anyway. They basically just giving up like, oh, Trump is going to win. We just need to accept this. And, settle the fuck down. But if that does happen, yeah, I really don't know what the fuck we're gonna do. I really don't, because I mean, Trump already like kind of removed a lot of the guardrails when he was president. I mean, this whole thing where he didn't even have um people getting confirmed by the Senate. It was just, well, he's the acting head of this. They're just the acting head of this. Oh, okay. So I think it was Cal Penn or one of these guys. Or I don't know, some celebrity. He was like, "Oh, great. So this whole time, this country's been running on the honor system, apparently." So all these guys, they just basically said, "Well, we don't technically have to do any of this." But if he could just keep on appointing more and more judges, kind of like he did with the Supreme Court, where they stole a seat, and that's a whole other can of worms I don't really want to get into right now, but they could just remove all the guardrails because they are finding the people who basically say, the system sucks. We need something where we have a red Caesar. We have a strong man up top that we like. So you don't support the Constitution. You want just what you want. You want theocracy. You want very right-wing ideology. So, yeah, I'm worried about this shit. Like, I'm really, I don't know. Like, it's really freaking me the fuck out lately. And I'm getting scared that people just aren't thinking about this. They're not scared enough of, like, the possibility of, like, something like this being implemented. Because they're going to hand this book, whether it's Trump or a different Republican getting the nomination, they're going to hand them this guidebook and say, here you go. Kind of like how the Federalist Society said, here are the justices you need to pick. And it's just a list of like all these right-wing dickheads. Just that's all they are. They're right-wing dickheads who they have really no love for the Constitution. It's their ideology, their religion, just things like that. So anyway, well, I guess we'll see in less than a year if, this shit actually plays out. And yeah. So anyway, until next time, this is Bad Five, and I'll see you then.